Okay, let's talk about content creation again. I went over some of the basic last time, but I want to get into some more specifics this time. You can make solo content and be successful. There are plenty of solo creators, and I'm not talking DOMs, just in general, people who only photograph and video themselves doing spicy things, and they're still successful. But it does take an element of creativity, especially if you're not a 10 out of 10 on the hot scale, which, I mean, I'm a plus size woman. I'm not going to be everybody's, cup of tea. That being said, if you want to work with other people, there are plenty of ways to do that, but you have to keep yourself safe. So this is sort of a safety video as well, but it's going over the basics and like things that I have learned. Before I get into working with other people in general, I do want to add, I don't recommend filming with a romantic partner unless they are also in the industry, because if it ends badly, and you may think your romance is forever, but if it ends badly, they could come after you, no matter how many model release forms you have signed. It is in your best interest to either only film with people in the industry or just film solo. I promise you that is going to save you some grief down the road when someone who's not in the industry inevitably decides, you know what, that wasn't for me, I need you to take this down. Now, if you do work with other creators, collaborate with other creators, I have some recommendations on how to keep yourself safe. The first thing we're going to talk about, which is I think the most important thing, testing. If you haven't heard of PASS, P-A-S-S, just the word pass, don't worry, I hadn't heard of it till I started working with people within the industry as opposed to when I first started, because I wasn't paying attention when I first started. But essentially, PASS is an organization created to standardize testing across the adult industry and to make sure that performers can remain safe. It's a database to help performers, producers, etc. keep track of who's been tested, how recently, and if they are cleared to work. It does not share your actual information. So it's not going to say so-and-so tested positive for chlamydia on this date. It's just going to say that so-and-so is not cleared for work, whether it's because you haven't been tested within the last 14 days, which is the standard, or you haven't been tested in the last 30 days, which some people will accept, or something happened. PASS only works with a handful of organizations that do these testing. The one I used most recently was Empower, and what they'll do is they'll send you a kit where you do a video call with them to do the swab so they know you're doing it correctly. And then that same day, you have to have scheduled an appointment at a lab to get the blood drawn. And then, you'll send it from there. There are companies that actually have testing centers or that partner with like urgent cares and things like that. The problem for me is that I live in the state of New York, and most of these organizations don't have actual locations in the state at all, period. The ones that do operate within this state only operate with certain locations and aren't their own. So like talent testing doesn't have an actual clinic of any kind. And now I don't know what it looks like in other states. That could just be their norm. But the problem is that the urgent care that I was going to, that I was using for the blood work, doesn't do swabs, which for MGen is kind of important. Some of the organizations that work with PASS actually have their own locations in large cities like LA. So if you're located there or near there, you might be in luck. Now, again, I've mentioned that PASS, this database, does not share your actual results. It just shares whether you're cleared to work. But the clearance is through 14 days after the testing date, not after the results date. So if I tested today, it'd be 14 days from today, not 14 days from, a day or two from now when I get the results. So just keep that in mind if you do go into this. The panel includes 9 tests for 7 different STIs, and they're going to be right here. I will not remember them, and I also can't read my laptop over here while I'm trying to record. It doesn't work because I have to squint. Joining the PASS database is free, but testing will obviously cost you. Sometimes insurance will cover part of it, so it's always worth a shot to try. Keep in mind though that even with testing, there are still big risks and you can't be 100% safe all the time. So please just keep that in mind and work with people who are trustworthy and who show you these results on the actual database, people you can look up within the database. When it comes to reaching out to other creators, which I don't normally do, I've done it a few times and it's been great each time, but I mostly am the one that gets reached out to. I don't know if it's because I'm a woman or what, but keep in mind that you should be keeping it professional the entire time. You shouldn't be going to someone and calling them babe or sexy or sweetie or whatever. You can say, oh my God, your content is so great, it's so sexy. That's fine. I'm talking about using almost like a pet name. Don't call them these things. Just say, hey, Sarah, I love your content. It's so sexy. It's so hot. The quality is great. Whatever it is you want to say to compliment me. And then say, I'd really love to work together. I'm going to be in your area on X date. Or I wonder if you're traveling out to, Atlanta anytime, or whatever it is. Or just that you live in the area. It doesn't matter. But please, please be professional. Treat it like you are reaching out to another influencer to collaborate on, I don't know, some sort of paid sponsorship of some kind. You're coworkers. You're attempting to be coworkers. You're not attempting to start a relationship with someone. And I think that that's where a lot of people, specifically men, but that's mostly because I have experience mostly with men, I think that's where a lot of people get confused. Again, a compliment is fine. Just be respectful about it. I'm going to respond much better to my earlier example than I am to, hey, sexy, collab. Especially when that person doesn't have any links or any provable content. And it's like, you're talking about a meetup, my guy. Go away. And if you're not sure where the person lives that you're reaching out to, just say, hey, I like your content. I was wondering if you're going to be in Syracuse anytime soon, or if you're local. Obviously, if it's something like Syracuse, odds are they're not going to be local. But if it's something bigger like LA, Vegas, Miami, New York City, Atlanta, hell, Denver even. I've seen a lot of creators living out in Colorado. But if you're asking them if they're going to be in your area anytime soon, that's probably the first thing to start with, and then kind of go from there. And if they are, let's say I am traveling to Vegas this summer. I did that a couple of years ago for a week, and it was amazing. And I worked with some creators that were just phenomenal. So a couple of people, once I posted that I was going, reached out to me and said, oh my gosh, I'd love to work with you. Like, let's set something up. And that's the right way to respond. Especially if you guys already follow each other, if you already interacted on social media, things like that. And that's one way to endear yourself to someone. Repost, like, comment, add engagement to their posts to help them, and then reach out to them. That's certainly one way for me to go, oh yeah, I recognize you. You've been commenting on my stuff. All of that is much better than, hey, sexy, I need this, and sending like a GIF or sending my own tweet back to me. I don't want that in my DMs. I likely don't want you in a sexual or romantic way. So please, treat me like a colleague or a coworker, and don't treat me like what most men do, which is a piece of meat. You're not standing out from the crowd. Now, if someone is reaching out to you, it's critical to have standards. I have requirements. I mostly get messages on Twitter and FetLife, but if someone doesn't have any content posted, if they don't have any links posted, or if they've only been doing this for like 3 days, or if they only have a couple of pictures or a video or something, even if they've been doing this for however long they claim they've been doing it, if you can't prove with the amount of content that you have that you've been doing this for 6 months or a year or whatever, then I'm not going to work with you. It's plain and simple. Because you don't have enough experience in the industry, your content has not gone through enough like quality upgrades, and you likely don't have any collabs under your belt. And even if you do, one collab and like almost no other videos still doesn't scream good like coworker to me. So my list is that I won't consider anyone with less than 6 months of experience, though I prefer a year or more. I won't consider someone who doesn't have a spicy side of any kind, or whose like Twitter, if that's how they reach out to me, is private, because in that regard, if someone has to request to follow you and you have a spicy site, you likely don't have that many followers, and that's not going to help me from an advertising standpoint. So why would I want to work with you? Granted, I live in an area where there are not too many people to work with, so I'm a little bit desperate right now, but that still doesn't mean that I'm going to accept that. On top of that, if you don't have at least one collab under your belt, that means there are no people that I can reach out to that have worked with you that I can say, hey, how was your experience with this person? And if I can't confirm that you're not an asshole, guess what? It's not happening, buddy. I've already been through that a couple of times, and I'm not doing it again. A good rule of thumb is to sort of treat it like a job interview. Not only are you looking at experience, not only are you looking at what they can do for you from a marketing standpoint, but you're also looking at how they talk about people they've worked with in the past, whether they tag people that they've worked with, because I don't always tag the people I worked with, but I do it enough that it's pretty obvious that, you can reach out to the people, so there's one guy I worked with back in Kansas City who's got, I don't know, a couple 100,000 followers on Twitter or something like that. And I tag him every once in a while, which is nice because then he'll like and sometimes even retweet my content. I would do the same thing for him if when he comes across my feed, whether it's something that I've been in or not, because I like to promote the people that I've worked with. I don't mind doing that. Now that's on my regular spicy Twitter and not my Dom spicy Twitter. But you're also looking at references, which again is a job interview thing. So sometimes I'll ask someone, hey, is there someone I can reach out to that you've worked with recently that I can like ask them some questions about you? Many people will give you a name. I also recommend reaching out to someone whose name they didn't give you, just in case, because they either could be trying to hide or they could just, not want you to reach out to anybody else. Some of these people are really strategic in the way that they provide names of the people that they've worked with. Now, the biggest green flag is to say, oh yeah, anybody I've worked with will be fine. That's fine, because it's less of a comment that makes me think, oh, they want me to do the work, and more of a comment that makes me think, oh, they're a safe person to work with. If I get asked about somebody that I've worked with, for example, the person up here that I work with a lot, right? I'd be like, yeah, he's professional. He's always timely, which you'd be surprised. We're constantly kind of working on the scene together, so he's good with the collaboration. He's great with setting up angles because he does photography himself on the side. And honestly, he's professional and he's fun. That's the kind of detail that I would give about somebody. But telling me, yeah, he's cool, is not gonna help. On the other hand, you might get the name of someone from that person that you want to collab with, and the reference says, you know what, I wouldn't. I actually had a New York City photographer reach out to me asking to do like a photo shoot, not like a full scene. And it was just gonna be me, it wasn't gonna involve him. And the person that he told me to reach out to said the photography part was fine, but then he started pushing to do a couple of sexual acts. And I didn't feel comfortable with that. Yeah, I wouldn't either. You discussed one thing and he's changing the requirements or he's changing the requests. That's not acceptable to do at any point. Now, it's one thing to go into it knowing you're going to do some sort of pornographic scene, and then to discuss in detail when you're in the same room what you're going to do. That's different. But to say I'm going to do a photo shoot with just you and then come back and go, but maybe we could do this too and do a video. That's coercion, because I guarantee you that the person who's basically being tricked was not prepared for that, doesn't know how to say no, because a lot of women in this situation are going to feel like we have to say yes for our own safety. I know, because I've been in that situation. It's a horrible situation to be in. And so many of us get into it and we unfortunately cannot get out without feeling unsafe. It's okay to feel like you're being over dramatic, but to still do that, to still say no to that person. When I got that reference about the photographer in New York City, I went back to the photographer and said, you know what, this isn't going to work. I didn't say why. I didn't say it was because of the reference I got. I didn't say anything like that. I just said, you know what, it's not going to work, because I didn't want the person who had given me the bad reference to get any blowback from that. I didn't want them to be called out on social media or anything like that, because I didn't know what kind of power this photographer had over that person. You never know what the dynamic is going to be. You never know if the photographer is going to, call them out and, make up lies about them or anything like that. So you never want to say specifically, so-and-so had something bad to say, or your reference had something bad to say. Just say, you know what, it's not going to work, or I had to cancel my trip or something like that, and then just stop responding to them. Even if they ask about collaborating at a later date, just keep them on that no thank you list, I want someone to ask for references about me even if they reach out to me to work with. I want someone to say, hey, Sarah, I'd love to work with you, but I was wondering, before we kind of get into too much of a discussion, do you recommend that I reach out to anybody in particular to ask how it was working with you? And I'd be like, yeah, literally these people. And now a couple of those people are no longer in the industry, so I'd have to have them reach out to obviously the people who are. But the guy from Kansas City, most of the people I worked with all the people I worked with in Vegas, the guy that I work with a lot up here, all of them would give me good references. They would say that I'm professional. They would say that I'm fun. They would say that I don't want to say down for anything, but like, I'm easy to work with. And that's what I want people to say. But I know that if I were to say, just reach out to anybody, they would also have to comb through all of my content. So I don't want to say that. I just want to give them the list of all the people. As an important point, You as an amateur choose who you work with. You don't have to work with anybody that you don't want to. You don't have to work with anybody at all. And that's one of the plus sides of being an amateur and not working with major studios, because I have heard, I don't know that it's true, but I have heard that the problem with these porn actors that work with major studios is that they kind of don't have a choice on who they get to work with, and sometimes they find out on the day that the person they're working with is someone that they don't want to. Always follow your gut, your intuition. If something feels off, and even if you can't tell what it is, say no. You might piss someone off. Yes, you might lose out on money, but your safety and your not just physical safety, but your mental health is so much more important than all of that. Building a brand that you are proud of comes from also keeping yourself safe. As a note, if you ever want to know who I've worked with that I love, or who I've worked with that I'd recommend staying away from, feel free to shoot me a message. I'm happy to answer. I'll give you a list of everybody I've worked with, and then the couple of people that I recommend not working with, and literally everybody else is cool. And I'll give you reasons as well. I'm not just going to say, no, don't work with them. I'm going to give you reasons. And there's one person that I have to give you an entire rundown of the entire weekend. I want to talk about payment. If the person reaching out to you is offering to pay you, either because you're coming all the way to them and you're not meeting halfway, or whatever the case is, get the payment up front. Get it up front. And sure, offer like a refund if you cancel within 72 hours, offer a refund. That's what I would do. But then if they're the ones who cancel, that could potentially cut into your bank account, because you may have already made, flight reservations. You may have made hotel reservations, something like that. And so for me, it's you pay me up front. If you cancel within less than 72 hours, I either keep all of it or I keep X amount, depending on like how much it is in total and like how much I would be out if they canceled. At the very least, require half up front. Like if you don't require the full deposit, require half up front. I don't care if it's $1,000. I don't care if it's $250. Make sure you set clear boundaries when working with someone. I mentioned before the photographer, but I had a not great experience, not with obviously this person because I didn't work with them, but I've had some not great experiences, and setting boundaries is incredibly important, because if I had specifically set up a safe word with this person, if I had given a little bit more information, I might have not had all of the experience that I had. It still would have been a terrible experience, but that's beside the point. Explain to your scene partner, I don't do this, I don't do this, I don't do this. If I make this hand signal, if I say this word, we gotta stop, or whatever the case may be, to protect yourself, not just physically, but mentally. And even if it's not something where it's against your limit in the scene and you just feel like something is off or something hurts or whatever, and you need to kind of reset, it's okay to say your safe word. I do think there should be safe words used on all porn sets, whether they're BDSM related or not, because at any point, someone can become uncomfortable. Something you're doing could hurt that you don't expect to hurt. Any of those things. And you're going to protect yourself if you set those up ahead of time so that you can say them without pissing someone off. I say that from experience. Okay, now this is less about collaboration and more just about content in general. I've talked about consistency, and that also comes into play when you're releasing content. So, for example, I filmed 3 or 4 videos a few weeks ago, but I didn't release them all at once. I've scheduled them to release like once a week over the next few weeks. On top of that, if you have photos, it's okay to recirculate some photos, by the way, especially if some are a little bit older. Like I have stuff from when I first started 6 years ago that is no longer on any of my subscription pages. So am I gonna repost that shit? Abso-fucking-lutely. But I'm also gonna make sure I'm posting like every day or every other day for these photos, whereas these longer clips are only gonna be once a week. You don't wanna bombard these people and then have nothing to post because you got sick, because you had to take an emergency trip for a loved one or something like that. Life happens, and sometimes it's been a long week and you don't want to film. Life happens. You need to make sure that you schedule the content, that you have enough content to be able to remain consistent, and that you don't just release everything all at once. As excited as you are to start making money off of that clip or those photos or whatever, it's going to benefit you to release things slowly. Even if you release trailers saying, hey, coming out on Tuesday next week, I've got this hot clip, you definitely don't want to miss it. That will entice people to either subscribe to you or to maybe look at the other videos you already have available and things like that. Kind of related to scheduling, let's talk about thinking ahead. There are all kinds of holidays coming up throughout the year. So when I'm filming this, at least, Earth Day is still coming up. Am I going to do like a kind of nature goddess themed photo shoot? Sure, absolutely. Then you have Memorial Day, do a sale. Then you have Father's Day, you know, do with that what you will. You've got the 4th of July, you've got Labor Day, you've got, hell, Arbor Day. And then you've got like the major holidays. October is Halloween. October's not a holiday. It might as well be. But you got Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, and then you've got Valentine's Day. You know, you've got all kinds of things coming up. So even for, Fat Tuesday, I did a Chastity for Lent video. Thinking ahead will help you to create content, because there are going to be times when you're like, oh my God, what do I do this week? What do I film? Because I have that problem all the time. Okay, great. What holidays are coming up that I can prepare for? I know that there are a few holidays coming up that I can film things for. So keep those things in mind, because they will help you. And you may come up with other ideas because of those holidays, even if the ideas aren't specifically related to the holiday. Like it may be a springboard. I actually joked last year, the year before, that I'm gonna start filming my Christmas content in July, so that I don't run into the problem of being like 2 weeks into December and being, forced to film Christmas content within a 3-day period, because I've only got that much time before I have to edit it and release it and all that jazz. So thinking ahead will save you some headaches down the road, I promise. I keep a lot of the ideas for my content on my phone, so that when I am ready to film, I can just look at them real quick and say, oh, I'm gonna do this one today. Or I'm gonna do these 3 today, or whatever it is. I try to film more than one clip at once, so that I do have a little bit of a backlog is the word I keep using, but it's not what I mean. But just sort of bag of tricks to reach back into and be ready to release it whenever I need to. Your editing, by the way, does not have to be top notch. There are plenty of people that like more amateur looking content, and you will get better as you go down the road, because all of my content from prior to, I think it was October of 2021, is gone. It is not up anywhere anymore. You can't find it, because it sucked. Like, finally, a couple of years ago, I just deleted all of it, because it just wasn't quality content. It didn't match the quality that I have now, and I chose to delete it. I might actually post it on my subscription pages as this is a subscriber only thing now, but I definitely don't advertise that kind of thing anymore, because my content is just, it's better lit, it's filmed better, the angles are better, like it's edited better than it used to be. You will grow as you do this. So don't worry too much about quality in the beginning. Do your best, but you cannot be a perfectionist when you first start, because you just don't know enough yet. Unless you are a professional video editor, in which case, by all means, be a perfectionist. That's on you. But in that same vein, understand that you are going to have to cut bits and pieces from your videos. If you're editing your videos, you have the ability to say something and then start over with that same sentence. Just make sure you wait a beat. Like when I was filming the first few videos in this series, I would literally finish saying something and then I'd immediately go into like doing something with my hair, or doing something that like itching my nose or whatever, that I didn't want in the footage. And I'd have to quickly, like very, very closely cut around it, or cut to the next take that I had done. Keep in mind that you are gonna have to cut bits and pieces together. And if you do mess up, wait a beat, start, and then, even if it's a normal sentence and you're just waiting in between what you're saying, just try to think about the editing part of it while you're filming, which I know it can be a lot, especially if you're not used to filming things like this. Trust me, I know, because I said in TikTok recently that I was mad at past Sarah for filming those first few videos the way I had, because I had 30 minutes of film, but the video was only like 19 minutes because I kept restarting my takes, but it took me forever to edit it because I had to get so close, because I was taking breaths, or I was, itching my nose, or whatever it is. So that's why I'm doing all of this within the take, because I know that I'm going to do it anyway, and I'd rather just have it in the video. I hope that made sense. I just kind of rambled just now. Sorry. Also, make sure your camera is actually recording before you sit down or stand or whatever and get started, because more than once it has happened to me where I wasn't actually filming. There are multiple times where I will sit down, know that I have started recording, stand back up, go check, sit down, go, wait, it was recording, right? And then check again. I would so much rather check 50,000 times than not get what I'm trying to film. Also, when editing, you can zoom in a little bit, just be careful that it doesn't make things grainy as you zoom in. Most people are going to be watching these things on their phones or their tablets, so it doesn't have to be like 4K quality. Keep that in mind also when you're looking for cameras or phones or whatever it is. When you're filming, it's okay to be zoomed out a little further as well, because for example, I would much rather have more space above my head and have to zoom in a little bit than to not get everything that I want within the actual frame. So keep in mind, there are so many things you can do with editing that as long as you get the right angle and you get what you want in the frame when you're first filming, you will be able to fix things and alter things as you need. All right, so that's my second video about content creation. Just as a quick reminder, because I've talked about it on TikTok, one, you can send me messages on any platform and ask me questions. Just make sure you understand that if you ask me more than a handful, I am going to direct you to the sort of online tutoring thing that I have available on ManyVids, which for the rest of the month of April and a couple weeks into May, it is 50% off, so keep that in mind. Just as a quick reminder, I do have a Discord server now. I've talked about it on TikTok a little bit. The link is below, and just understand there is an age verification process and you have to message me to get that started. So if you're hanging out there and you haven't been able to see the rest of the server, that is why. Until the next time.